And we're live. Wow, that is very cool. That is very cool. All right, so we are back. This is our first joint live stream in quite a while here. And we are talking about Fantastic Four, the first steps. And on the left-hand side, we got Chai Star G and Mr. C. What is going on?
We had, to keep it succinct, a Ferris Bueller kind of a day. So we're
Uh-huh.
coming off some good energy and we're ready here to talk first steps from the movie house from Fantastic Four. How was your day, pal?
And my day was all right. I went running around the neighborhood and running around with the dog and can't complain. So, yeah, yeah.
All right.
So, um, if you have not seen, how do we want to do this? Do we want to try to keep spoiler light or just go all out spoiler? What do you think?
I think, full boat is good. I think, all spoilers. So, spoiler alert, if somebody's looking to avoid spoiled plot elements or speculations or revelations, come back another time.
That sounds right. That sounds right. All right. So, this is your one and only warning that this is going to be a spoiler review of Fantastic Four: The Next Steps or First Steps. Sorry. All right. Over at Chai Star G and Mr. C, what did you think of the movie?
You want to go?
You go.
All right, I'll go, and then you can
go,
go, and you
yeah.
go. All right, I'll go.
Yeah.
What I liked about it from the jump was that, okay, so now Fantastic Four previously was not a Marvel or Disney production, and now it's within the greater Marvel and Disney house of ideas, house of mouse. It didn't feel exactly like an Iron Man or a Captain America or a Thor or an Avengers movie. Part of the way I would say they established that tone was to go retro and have that 60s look. Uh, but it wasn't just the visuals, it was also the writing, it was the tone, maybe a little bit the acting. But I liked how it carved out a territory for its own self to make it distinct from the rest of the catalog.
What did you think of the first Fantastic Four movies? Did you like them? Did you hate them? Some people have really strong opinions of the Fantastic Four.
I,
Whether, yeah,
there's a significant size crowd that looks upon those as not worth your while or a lesser movie. So I didn't feel it was the greatest superhero picture ever, but to me, I consider them popcorn movies and I enjoyed them as such. But what I can say that, like, it gave us Chris Evans before he became Captain America. Like, he's been Captain America so long, I haven't reflected on his performance as Human Torch. But now let's talk on the acting side of it. I think Chris Evans very much captured the life of the party ways of Human Torch. The Michael Chiklis nailed it in his depiction of Ben Grimm of the Thing. Alba was not necessarily historically correct Susan Storm, but she didn't hurt that movie in any kind of a way. She brought in an interpretation that for me worked. Greffield as Reed, I think he captured. If anything, for me, didn't work out of that previous set, which is going on 20-ish years ago. I thought that Doctor Doom didn't have the whole Doctor Doom flavor and vibe. How would you recap the previous attempt, the previous iteration at the Fox Studios before in that era?
yeah, I liked the first Fantastic Four movie. I thought it was good. I thought it was generally a good watch. I watched parts of it. I want to say maybe a couple of years ago, and it shows its age. It shows its cracks. There's some utilization of the Invisible Woman type of character that was fine. X number of years ago, and in 2025 or whenever it was I watched it, it's maybe not something that you would do necessarily today. But nonetheless, I thought it was good, and I agree with you. Michael Chiklis and Chris Evans, they were the standouts. I really enjoyed their character. There's also characters, their portrayal of the characters, and there's a performance also by a little known actress, Kerry Washington, at that time, who would go to fame with, oh man, as Olivia Pope. What was the name of that show? But she would ascend to greater fame after the Fantastic Four. The Josh Trank version, yeah, I didn't like that. That was not a good movie.
So, from having listened to Trank's interviews and listening to at that time,
Yeah,
when Collider was still, in the old days of Collider and movie reviews,
right.
Trank, uh, Trank had a take on it that he was trying to define it as explorers or define it as more sci-fi. So
Yeah.
that the concept, not the execution. So here it was also defining itself in a different way. Yeah.
Oh boy.
So I got a little story to tell you.
Oh man.
Kids, gather around. So I went with you and
Yeah.
your mom.
Yeah.
So I don't know where my head was at. But
Uh-huh.
you said about F whatever movie. I thought we were seeing F1.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one with Brad Pitt or whatever. And so we're sitting in the movie theater, right? The movie theater doesn't say like what movie it is out
Yeah.
right? So I'm sitting there, we're watching through all the promos and stuff. I'm like, wow, these are like really long promos. And then like a Disney one came on. I'm like, wow, is F1 like from Disney? And then all of a sudden the movie started. I'm like, this is the longest promo for the Fantastic Four I've ever seen. And then it dawned on me, I'm not watching F1. I'm watching F4. Woo!
Oh
Continue
man.
on, amigos.
Yeah, it's a very different movie. It's a very different movie.
Now I was not available for that night, but there
Yes.
could only have been a misfire there, but a good story coming out of the misfire all the same. I think I was on about the bridge that Trank tried to define the movie in a certain quality,
Yeah.
and that it's fair to say he didn't achieve what he was trying to achieve. But I will say in the current 2025, I think it's fair to say it defined itself differently from the rest of the Marvel pictures, and that it landed successfully.
Yeah. I mean, with the Josh Trank version, last thing I'll say on that one, 2/3 of it I think are okay, and then somebody else took over, and then it just destroys any and all chance that movie had to succeed. But anyways, so I thought with this movie, with Fantastic Four, the next steps or first steps. Why am I calling it the next steps? It's like, I don't know. In the out of the theater reaction that me and Chai Star G had about the movie, yeah, I thought it was overall a good time. I think it's probably for me still maybe a little bit above Superman, which just came out last month. I know a lot of people feel differently, that they prefer Superman over Fantastic Four, but I feel like both those movies, both Superman, the new James Gunn movie, as well as Fantastic Four, First Steps, both of them are true renderings of comic books in live action form. I feel like they both executed that far, far better than a lot of movies of late. I mean, I feel like it was a concerted effort to have that rendering of the comic book in celluloid here, or digital, or whatever the heck they use for making movies. Yeah. All right. Oh, let's see. Did Jim Campbell writes, did anyone feel like Fantastic Four was also a Godzilla movie?
Say Jim Campbell, with his questions coming from Campbell's Corner, makes us better to let us reflect this. Absolutely. Like Godzilla and Galactus, I don't want to say they're perfectly interchangeable, but just on the physical destructive power and physical size, Like it's a big deal. It's a kaiju villain. So I don't know that I mean, obviously, I realize Galactus is not the same size as the Fantastic Four characters, but I think this might be the first time it's occurring to me that Galactus fits right in with your Godzilla and your King Kong and your kaiju style characters.
So let's go on this topic. It's a really interesting one. Watching the trailer watching the movie, watching the trailer, the thing that concerned me about the movie was the appearance of Galactus, because at the tail end of that trailer, you've got the foot, right? The foot is going through New York, or whatever version of Earth, New York this is, and it gave me a lot of concerns that this is the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. So it wasn't Godzilla for me; it was more like Stay Puft Marshmallow. And that gave me a lot of concerns. Yeah, talking about the movie with my son, who saw it also separate from us. Galactus seems to change shape. I mean, you can't really tell proportions, but he's in this thing. He's out in space, obviously, and he's enormous because he's a celestial, right? I think I got that right, or I'm not sure.
Well, comic
okay.
history, he's got a different point of origin than the Celestials, but in the MCU, are they going to refer to him as a Celestial or make him part of the Celestials? That's worth checking out. Let's take a quick minute to say hello, Michaela.
Oh, hey
Good
there.
to have Michaela along. And then Campbell is coming back with TriStar is being suspiciously quiet. Is he a herald?
Yes. Yes.
Right moment to strike.
Oh, yes. Hey there, Mandarin. Yes. Thanks for tuning in.
Okay. So,
yeah.
I'm not writing anything, dudes.
Yeah.
TriStar in the chat is not me. I'm just saying.
Oh my goodness, that is bizarre.
Yeah, I know, right? Unless I could do it with one hand, like pick my nose or whatever. But no,
that is bizarro world. All right.
All right. So whatever is in the chat.
Yes. That is
my hands.
That is bizarre. All right. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Hey there, Mandarin. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah. So I think that Godzilla reference is about right. It is very much that Godzilla type of styling at the end, and I thought it worked better than, again, my fears. It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It's a little Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but it's not too much so. Yeah. How did you feel about Galactus then? Did it work for you? Did you?
Okay, so let's say, again, comparing it to the previous iteration, I get it that there was a concern that can you render, a character who's traditionally a giant purple and blue suit, how can you make that look good on the movie screen? And so, okay, how do you circumvent that? Turn him into a gaseous cloud entity instead of a physical corporeal form. That totally, I'm not saying it was a completely invalid choice. I'm like, it makes sense. But now bringing it up to, so like a lot of other stuff, you darken the colors a little bit, you put some gravity to the situation, you take the Jack Kirby styling for the machinations and the machinery, and you include Galactus in that environment surrounded by his machinery. And I thought they made him look really good.
Yeah. Yeah, generally speaking, I thought Galactus looked good. The visual effects overall, I think, worked very well. I thought it worked for me, and kind of like what me and TriStar G had talked about after watching it. And I'm curious on your take here, Mr. C. The whole vintage style. I mean, we're in an alternate Earth. We're in a different Earth, but we're in the 1960s kind of era type of styling. I was surprised how well it worked. And I think it worked to the strength of, kind of kind of the quirkiness of the Fantastic Four. With some amount of perspective, Mr. Fantastic with the stretchy arms and all this stuff. It could really be off-putting. It could not work. It could potentially not work. But having this type of treatment, I think, really was smart in this vintage era. What did you think of that vintage styling? Did it work for you?
Well, I thought it grounded everything in a perfect way. I thought just the hair, the makeup, the clothes. Like, I don't know how much more expensive it is to set a movie as a period piece, but then also in their New York, there were some other dome type skyscrapers that aren't in real New York or aren't in Marvel's conventional comics New York. So I thought they did a great job of borrowing from conventional real world elements from our relatively recent past and then mixing in a bunch of sci-fi stuff as well.
Yep. In the comments, let's see. Jim Campbell writes, so he was a clown in the other movies?
I would say yes. Mr. Campbell. And good to see Campbell and Mandarin hanging out.
Yes.
So that, Mandarin, let me show you. So this is the bag clips. You can find these at Target. You can find these at comic shops. You can find these in a lot of spots. But then this is where the purple thing, this is where this Galactus came out of, was out of the bag clips. It's a Monogram company, and they are fun to pick up. Jason, to around there, maybe we can go more on that theme. So how did Galactus look? You say comparing. Let's start with Mr. Fantastic. In this movie, they utilized his stretchy powers a lot less than in the previous movies. And again, I thought that brought to a higher degree of the movie being grounded, or it was less, if you will, fantastical. Just going Reed Richards now to Reed Richards in the previous time. What were your thoughts on how they utilized or underutilized or didn't utilize the stretchy powers?
They did not use that stretchy power enough. My opinion. I don't think they used it quite enough. It's almost an afterthought, I think, in the movie. And when they did use it in the movie, I thought mostly it looked okay. I don't know if there is a good way to do it in 2025 that is not goofy looking, right? Or just strange looking. But I think it generally looked okay. It worked for me. Jim Campbell writes, do they ever say in the movie that this is a different world from Avengers and a different year? They made a point to just jump in. Yes, it is shown in a caption of what number Earth this is. So that was something that was called out. Although I think normal human beings, references to what's normal, what's the current Earth, 626 or 616. And so I think it was like,
I didn't freeze. I was waiting for you.
Oh yeah. So the other Earth
is traditional Marvel on paper comics or the Comixology comics are 616, and this one, I think the numbers they put in the front of the screen was 828, and I think that's supposed to correspond to Jack Kirby's birthday of August 28. But feel free to correct me, commenters, if I'm off on that. So both in the time period 60s and not went back to when Chi-Star and me first caught Iron Man live at the movie house way back. Boy, man, that was a long time ago.
I know, right? It's like a blur now.
So both in the setting timeline and in that I wouldn't say crawl, but in that statement they had posted on the screen.
Right. But if you blink, you'll miss that, right? Yeah. If you're looking at your popcorn or whatever it is, you will miss it. And for the most part, people will have the same question, right? Jim Campbell, not a casual fan, right? More of a fan. But if you have the more casual fan or somebody who's just not seeing all the movies and just tuning, it will be question mark. What is this? Where's Captain America? What's going on here? Yeah, yeah. So they could have set the stage probably a little bit better on that point. All right, and then what is it? Oh, I don't know. Why why are you why your head be dipping, Chai Star? I don't know. Your head. I didn't notice anything. Um,
Well, man, and all I can say is that we had a Ferris Bueller like day, and again, we'll come back a different time and talk
yes.
on the rest of the Ferris Bueller ness of the day, man. But we wore Chai Star out today, man. That's real talk. There it is.
So we talked a little bit about the casting of prior movies here. We didn't talk about the casting here. What did you think of the overall cast? Did it work for you? Did it not? What did you think of the people in the roles?
All right, casting wise, I thought I'll take a little detour first. So it's not a spoiler that RDJ, Robert Downey Jr., has been cast as the future Doctor Doom. So let's just say this: even if RDJ does lesser work, there was a lower bar set at portraying Doctor Doom in the previous movie. So I expect that'll be an elevation just on the acting and the casting side. Controversial as it may be, it's easy to beat the depiction of the previous Doctor Doom, since I was not a fan of the previous depiction of the good doctor or the evil doctor. Let's go with the main four then. So did Pedro, people are saying Pedro Pascal is overcast, or he's in so many different things. I thought he brought a very cool presentation of Reed Richards, and again, significantly different than the earlier two. Now you can't even call it a trilogy, but then the earlier two movies. Now going down the line, I'm not. So I am pretty familiar with the works of Pedro. We've spoken of his work back in our Mandalorian time when we're reviewing Mandalorian. I'm not familiar with Vanessa Kirby, but I'll say her depiction of Sue Storm, her acting skills, I was really on board with it. It's hard to compare, or it's hard to go against Chiklis's depiction of the Thing, because I think it is a very comic accurate, direct translation comic to screen. Chiklis was top flight at doing that. So I think, again, as far as carving out a niche and an identity, they made a real good choice. What's the name of the actor playing the Thing this time around?
I'm trying to pull it up here.
He,
It is. Oh golly, why am I struggling?
Last name. Anyway,
Evan Moss Backrack.
Yes, he did great work at still portraying a very consistent elements of the Thing's personality, but in a completely different way and tone than what Chiklis did. And so our Johnny Storm character, maybe within the script and the acting, Johnny Storm was most distinct or portrayed most differently than he had been in the previous movie, than he had been in the comics. Like here, Johnny was part of the team science and the sleuthing and the putting the clues together to lead to a resolution. So that was a contribution that doesn't very often come to Johnny Storm on the pages of the comics. And for sure, the Chris Evans version of Johnny Storm was more the party guy setup. So I thought they, and now acting wise, again, the Torch actor who I was a bit familiar with from him being Eddie Munson on Stranger Things. So again, that character made the heroic sacrifice on the side of Stranger Things. So once again, he was ready to make a heroic sacrifice. Anyway, those are my. Now I've been blobbing for a bit. Go ahead. What are you? How do you answer your own question?
I'm going to go with the unpopular take here. I don't think it worked as well. I don't think the chemistry between the characters worked as well for me compared to the first Fantastic Four film. I mean, you've got the distinctive personalities and energy and pacing with Chiklis and Chris Evans and so forth, and here, I don't know if it's to replace all four, or is it just the one, or what. I think my issue with Pedro Pascal, I love Pedro Pascal. I love him as an actor. I love him as a human being. However, in this movie, I felt like I was watching Pedro Pascal. I didn't feel like I was watching Reed Richards or Mr. Fantastic. I felt like I was watching him. Um, and I don't know if that's because I've just seen him in so many things, right? I just saw him in The Last of Us season 2. Uh, seen him across franchises. What he's been in what DC, because he was in the second Wonder Woman movie. He's been in Star Wars as the
Yeah, I totally
Mandalorian,
forgot about Wonder Woman until you mentioned.
right? And he here he is in Marvel. He's been in the Kingsman franchise. He's been in the Equalizer franchise. He's been in other things too. Um, but here I just felt like I was seeing him as opposed to Mr. Fantastic or Reed Richards, and I think that was to the detriment of the movie. His characterization, or what they gave him to work with, was more about Reed Richards as an intellectual, right, trying to be the dad that's that kid protects the entire world and stuff like that, right? And so you got more of that than the stretchy powers and stuff. Um, but I felt like overall, yeah, something was maybe a little bit missing for me. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. Um, how did so? Let's see. To hop around a bit, um, with with uh, with the characterization of the Fantastic Four. This is where you will know exponentially more than me. While I said at the top that this feels like more of a comic book movie brought to life in live action, how close is it to the spirit or the heart of the Fantastic Four? Did it connect? Did it resonate? What did you think?
Well, let me say this.
Yeah.
Keeping off of your Pascal and
Yeah.
Reed comments, um, I think to me that brought like the dramatic. What's expressed in the comics is maybe melodrama, or is it trying to achieve something besides action? I thought the Reed Sue relationship kind of grounded things as far as a serious point of conflict.
Oh boy.
And uh, again, I think as much as the previous movies with Chiklis and Evans have their detractors, I thought that had a lot of great direct to screen translation. So I say this was a good. I think it did it very well at keeping certain elements and then just reinterpreting it into the screen. So, for example, the vehicles, like the fantastic car,
Mhm.
as originally designed by Jack Kirby, was, had some kind of resemblance to a bathtub. So here they went with a very different style, more like a late 50s actual car for the fantastic car, and I think that looked really good. So both the vehicles, the science equipment, and the characters had a good carryover from the comics into the screen.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I have vague memories of the Fantastic Four comics as a kid, but I haven't picked up. I haven't bought a comic in quite a long time from the Fantastic Four franchise, at least. A couple of comments here from Jim Campbell. Mole Man was a scene stealer for sure. Yeah, that was really great.
Moment, let me do this in the same way that Bride of Frankenstein did not have a lot of screen time in her own movie. Mole Man did not have a lot of screen time here, but I mean, his tie. I mean, just the tie that Mole Man was wearing. I want to find that tie and get it because, and they did a lot in a short amount of time with Mole, and even they didn't refer to him as Mole Man until Reed was getting mad at him, and he's like, he said it as an insult, but then they had to ask him for help. And again, concept wise, right? Okay, how are we going to have this kaiju Godzilla Galactus marching around New York? Well, yeah, let's do a heroic thing and evacuate the people. So that just like everything lined up well that Mole Man was the one to receive that call to guide and to oversee the evacuation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I really love the Mole Man character. It's a character we saw the Mole Man when the group of us went to the Dunn Museum the other day to see the Alex Ross Heroes and Villains exhibit. Highly recommend if you're in the north suburbs of Chicago to swing over. That's not like a top tier villain for me, you know. And here it worked. It really worked. The Subterranea, it could not work. You know, it could fail as a premise. Yet it worked here.
And that was Mole Man's whole thing, is that he felt undervalued or not appreciated enough in the world. So yeah.
Uh, yes, and this is a mystery here. why? Why?
That
Why
wasn't
was?
me, bro.
Yeah, why? That is a mystery. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. So I have a question
Yeah, yeah.
to you two and to the people out there.
Yep.
So when I get wrapped into a movie, I get really into the characters and the actors and actresses that portray the characters, right? So watching Fantastic Four, when I was watching Mr. Fantastic, the wife, and all this, I can only like sometimes recognize them from past characters that they've done in other movies. Hence, like Pedro Pascal, The Mandalorian, Miss Fantastic, Fast and the Furious, and Mission Impossible, right? So my confusion right now is with Marvel and Disney picking Robert Downey Jr. as
Oh,
Doom,
I see where you're going. I see where you're going.
Do you think the Marvel fans out there can push aside that, yes, Robert Downey was Iron Man, now he's doing a totally different character? And the second part to this is when they present Doom, do you see the actual face of Robert Downey Jr., or is it hidden behind the mask at all times? If it is shown, do you think they think that Marvel and Disney think, oh, this is like so cool? You know, Robert Downey Jr. is like a staple within the Marvel universe. Let's bring him back as this character. But don't you think that because he is so vested in Tony Stark and Iron Man that it kind of plays a mind freak on people? I'm just saying.
What do you think, Mr. C?
I would say, who wants to take that one first? So, hey, first, the guy who claims he's only comic relief, but I'm going to tell him comic relief and so much more. That's a heavy hitter question. And so I want to say, whether it was based on desperation of lower box office or the honeymoon phase was over for the MCU, whether it was just desperation based or whether it's brilliant strategy, I mean, they went big. They swung for the fences. And so this could, like anytime you go, it was all in. When you go all in, right, then it's all or nothing. It's black or white. You're playing big. So either RDJ as Doom is going to be like everybody or a significant number of people are going to be like, that's amazing. Oh, look how well they did that. Or if the investment doesn't pay off, it's going to alienate a lot of people. They're going to be, oh, they were desperate. They put RDJ outside of what he should have been. I think, the same way that when he was Iron Man, he wanted to less and less have the armor on or the armor obscuring his face. Mm-hmm. In fact, visual effects wise, they came up with the whole idea of if you see him talking from inside the helmet and he's interacting with the visual technology that's right there in the faceplate of the helmet. So maybe they don't want to use that exact same trick or portrayal for him as Doom, or maybe they do want to use that exact same portrayal because it worked, but they have a very different tone.
But then it's sort of like there's a back history visually and in the character of Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man doing that same kind of tactic as Iron Man, seeing the face within the mask kind of thing. And sort of like, okay, we get it. But then it's sort of like hard to distinct the two characters where it's sort of like, okay, it's the same actor.
upon your articulating this line of question, now I even more so anticipate or look forward to seeing how it's going to pan out, because it's the same. It's kind of a waste of Robert Downey Jr. to keep the mask on his face the whole time, and the actual if they have this movie rendition of Doctor Doom match the traditional comic book rendition, then he has to have significant scarring on his face. So now, is that something, so I'm verklempt at the possibilities. I'm looking forward to it, but since we didn't get Fanboy's response to the Chai Star question yet, what do you got, G?
I think it's a really questionable choice to have Robert Downey Jr. In such a major character here. It's not entirely surprising, given the misfires, the issues well documented about the MCU and some movies not performing very well. So to bring back some of that original cast, or in this case, the very first main character, right, in the building Avengers, it's a safe choice. It's a safe choice. There have been other actors or actresses that have played multiple roles. The one that comes to mind for me is Gemma Chan, who played Minerva in Captain Marvel, and then played Cersei in the Eternals. But she had a very small role in Captain Marvel, and she was behind the makeup, so you wouldn't even know that's her, really. It didn't have a whole lot to go with. But here with Robert Downey Jr., you can't go bigger than him. So, yeah, I would hope that they're going to not have him behind the mask a lot, because what's the point? You're going to spend all these millions of dollars for Robert Downey Jr. coming back. It'd be nice to see him, unlike in The Mandalorian, where many times the person behind the mask is not Pedro Pascal. It's one of a couple different actors, actually. So I would hope we get to see him, but yeah, I don't know if it's going to work for everybody, especially somebody who is not as close to reading, whatever's the current equivalent of Collider or Variety or Deadline or whatever you have. Probably is wondering, what the heck is this? Didn't he die? Yeah. So it's kind of like with Solo, right? Like, oh, why is Darth Maul making a cameo in this movie? Didn't he die in that other movie? Yeah. So I think it's going to throw off a lot of people.
Well, as Chai Star did just pitch a question, I also want to pitch a question. A character, the fifth. Well, you could say Franklin is the fifth of the Fantastic Four, but you could also notice that as based in the late 70s, early 80s cartoon, Herbie. This is the first time Herbie's making it to the big screen in this kind of a way. What were your thoughts on Herbie? Or did you watch the cartoon as a youth, and did you remember Herbie? Did you have much of a history with Herbie? Or if you didn't, just what do you think of Herbie as they showed him on the screen here?
I liked Herbie. I don't really remember the cartoon. I feel like I've seen it, but I don't know. I don't have any real recollection of it. So when it showed up in the end credits scene, again, we're doing the spoiler whatever thing, but in the end credits, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun, but it's like, do I remember? It's like the Mandela effect. Do I really remember watching this or not? Yeah. So Herbie did work for me. What did you think?
I thought it was great. Even the fact that they popped out his faceplate and switched the cassette from whichever it was, either around the house mode or home mode,
right?
Base mode. Like, again, we're looking at a different technology here. It's not all just digital downloads and stuff. So that it was an interesting way to utilize the technology and make that relevant to how his eyes looked on his robot faceplate. And then in the actual ship, I think he was making a significant contribution to help literally steer the ship.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Jim Campbell writes, who was John Malkovich supposed to be in the movie? So the answer to that is the Red Ghost. Yeah. There was a lot of opportunity for covering different heroes or villains.
And yes, that got clipped, but may well be Fantastic Four number 3. We see Malkovich show up in the Red Ghost. We don't know one way or the other yet, but I like that in the earlier parts of the movie, without doing an origin story, just to say, okay, here's a quick reference to the Mole Man. Here's a quick reference to the Red Ghost and his gorilla team, or his ape, team. I'd be very curious of what is that footage of Malkovich that got cut from the movie, but I look forward to seeing Malkovich, if he's willing to play around, to come back as the Red Ghost in the future.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. We got more comments here. I'm gonna hop over this one. Although we should come back to it. Who is stronger, Hulk or the Thing? Jim Campbell writes, casting Downey as Doom reminds me that I heard some people think the new Superman is still Henry Cavill. So yeah, Marvel's got some splaining to do. I think that's right. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Let's remember, right? Like sports, like music. There's a core group, and then there's a standard fare person who's going to participate and pay attention, and then those people who are on the periphery. So that's interesting that people weren't. But it shouldn't surprise me that people didn't realize Superman was being portrayed by a different actor now. But that does set precedent then for maybe plenty of people will be confused by the casting of RDJ as Dr. Doom.
What do you think about? There's an interesting element with this movie, with Fantastic Four: First Steps, with the new Superman movie. And Charles Sergi, you and I are big fans of K-pop Demon Hunters. So which is a whole live stream all by itself. I am watching YouTube videos of K-pop Demon Hunters literally every day since I have watched that movie, which was Sunday, actually, last week Sunday. But with both of these movies, they don't give you that much of an origin story. You get, with K-pop Demon Hunters, you get some of the stage setting, you get some context, but there's parts of the story where you don't hear the origin of Rumi that much. You don't hear about her parents. They're both gone,
right.
But you don't hear a lot about that. You don't get any of Mira or Zoe, and yes, I know each of these characters here, and because I'm watching all these YouTube videos, but you don't get any of that context setting. And then with Superman, I'm glad we don't see, spoiler everybody on this one, Pa Kent die yet again. I'm glad we don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And they don't talk too much about his background. Instead, you're just jumping in. You're just, what? There's heroes, and you're diving into this story. You see the parts of the trailer in the very first moments of the movie. You're just diving in. And here with the Fantastic Four, there's not that much of a backstory. You don't see the ship go into the space, and then you see all of that. You see all that in the other movies, but here it's just sort of like alluded to almost. Not fully referenced. So rendered. So what did you think about that? Did it work? And I'm very curious if anybody's watching. How did that land for you?
Let's see. We do. If anybody's watching, we do have.
I know there's people watching, but yes, who have comments about this specific topic.
One of the worst movies ever made. I wouldn't spend 3 hours.
Yeah. I hear that. I mean, people have strong opinions about this movie. But what do you think here, Mr. C? The absence or the dial back origin story. What did you think?
I thought, I don't need to see an origin story out of the jump, and I think you can always reference or do flashbacks if there's a piece of the origin story that's going to directly fit into something in the future. And so I figured that the less time spent on the origin, like I don't need to see them going into the ship, but for the montage way that they showed it, I don't need them walking out onto the platform, because we saw Chiklis and Evans and Alba do that a few years ago. It's also like I can pick up a comic book and I can read it happen that way. So clear all that stuff out of the way. And it's very often said, right? I'm no filmmaker, but it's very often said that, the second movie is better because you cleared the origin story out of the way. So it had more time for. But no, another character we have yet to speak on, different, totally, well, not totally, but different person in the role of the title. So the Silver Surfer in the movie is played by Shella Ball, or rather, I shouldn't say played by. So it is the character of Shella Ball that chooses to take the power cosmic to become the Herald, to take the burden of being Galactus's Herald, to find worlds for him to feed on. So in the original setup, it is the same planet of Sen-La. I don't want to say it wrong.
Okay.
Where Norrin Rad chooses to take that burden to save his people, to save his world, to be the Silver Surfer. So I thought plenty of people were not for the rise of the Silver Surfer, and clearly there was not a third movie made at the time. So I suppose there's some validity to that. I enjoyed the Larry Fishburne, the Lawrence Fishburne vocals, and the Doug Jones physical depiction of Silver Surfer. But now this current depiction, the interplay, again, as I kind of hinted before, the Human Torch was possibly the least similar or the most change in his depiction. But having Human Torch and Shella Ball as Silver Surfer interact, I thought that. So get all that rocket ship out of the way, and there was still plenty of rocket ship, but give me time to see Johnny reach up and touch the surfboard he's trying to communicate and be shot down, dismissed back to away from the surfboard.
I also feel like this movie is a departure from past movies. Sure, we know about the hardcore people know about like the origin story of how superpowers were made and stuff like that. I feel like this movie is not about like the superpowers or how they got them. I feel like because they changed up some of the characters of how they use their superpowers, and even the Silver Surfer, giving that like humanity feel of a mother-daughter kind of like thing, spoiler, within the Marvel universe. I feel like it gave it more of a human touch to it. Like it kind of tugged at your heartstrings as far as like good versus evil. Like, I feel like there's like a different dynamic, and I feel like touching base with like how the Fantastic Four got their superpowers. I think that's just a very minute drop in the bucket of the bigger picture that I think Marvel wanted to show in the cinematic universe with this particular movie to set a different course than what the other movies were, and then they stopped. So I feel like if they do want to get more into the stories, that they could do it in like a prequel, like in the next movie. So now we're really enthralled in like who these characters are. We want more depth. We want more background. And I feel like it's almost like setting up the next movie. Like, okay, here are the characters. This is what they've gone through. This is the dynamics and all the struggles and hardships that they've all gone through. Now we want to know who they are.
If, to play off this well-constructed point, if Reed Richards and Victor Von Doom are going to, in the cinema universe, be college roommates or have known each other from their college, not roommates, but have been college rivals, then that totally opens. So here's the backstory now. Okay, we don't show rocket ships, but this is how Reed and Victor had such parts of themselves that were in common, and they were collaborating, and how that partnership went bad, so very wrong, where they became arch enemies, sworn enemies. And this plays into, people refer to Doom as petty, and Doom as jealous, and Doom as vindictive. And so then again, Robert Downey Jr. has more than one gear in his acting quiver, if you will. So am I convinced that Downey Jr. can convey pettiness in a flashback and in a long-standing grudge? Is Robert Downey Jr. able to act a multi-year grudge against Reed Richards and the gang? Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. I'm wondering, is when we see Robert Downey Jr., is he going to have some kind of goofy accent, right? Because he's What's the name of the country that he's from? Dr. Doom?
area. But
Yeah.
he could say he spent so much time in the States, he
Okay.
an American accent, but also when he was the dude behind the other dude, he did use a different style of speech pattern than his natural one that way. But this is a whole other ball of wax or a whole different style of accent, if you will.
So I had to look this up to remind myself. Wait, Lawrence Fishburne was the Silver Surfer?
Was the vocals. So in the same way, Mr. Campbell's Corner, in session, the same way that James Earl Jones is the voice of Darth Vader, but not the physical body of Darth Vader. So Doug Jones, who has been Abe Sapien, who has been in the Shape of Water, who's done so many different roles. Doug Jones was the physical Silver Surfer in The Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Lawrence Fishburne did the vocals. I'll have a James Earl Jones on Vader style.
Very nice, very nice. These nuts writes, can we discuss the relation between the Fantastic Four and the Incredibles? For that matter, which of these was the better Fantastic Four movie?
As it had been often said by John Schnepp and plenty of other people, that before, the best Fantastic Four movie was actually The Incredibles because of the overlap between Incredibles and Fantastic Four. So let me come to it this way. Mole Man in the current movie, in the 2025 movie, was, as we noted, so cool. So I think even if Incredibles never existed, Mole Man still would have been great on the screen right now. But the fact that John Ratzenberger had voiced the Underminer or the Mole Man style character, and I'm checking IMDb. Like I promise, I don't carry that around in my head. I'm checking IMDb right here. That Ratzenberger voiced the Underminer. So that I mean, I think this is a great companion piece now to the Incredibles. How would you answer?
On rewatch, I feel like The Incredibles is slower than I originally remember. I think it's still an excellent movie. I think it's really, really great. And yes, it's probably still the better Fantastic Four film. Obviously you had the family element rendered most visibly here in The Incredibles than the implied, kind of relationships and Ben Grimm and what, Good Buddy and all that. It just works better. That family element works better in The Incredibles than in Fantastic Four. But on rewatch, it's a lot slower than I had remembered, actually.
Now, this is going to be an aside, but it's a very quick aside and an unplanned aside. But as I'm scrolling in IMDb to see the cast, I don't know who Winston Dever is in the Incredibles movie, but voiced by Bob Odenkirk. And let me tell you, by coincidence, who sang "Take Me Out"? Not the national. Don't worry about the national anthem. Who sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" today at a certain Wrigley Field in a certain Cubs town in the friendly confines? Bob Odenkirk.
Wow.
That, my friend, is some synchronicity of that coming together.
That's cool.
As I said, that was an aside. So coming back to, we covered the main four. We covered Herbie. We covered the Surfer. We covered Galactus. Are there any other elements? Are there any comments or other questions from the commenters? Or are there any other elements of the movie that you would want to include in our conversation?
I was surprised. Yeah, we should probably wrap up too. Yeah, I was surprised that the movie did not line up with the cameo that does appear in Thunderbolts. So there is a very, very, very brief Fantastic Four aspect in the end credits, but they don't quite line up. So there's more story that I assume is going to be told in Spider-Man Brand New Day, which I understand just started filming yesterday here. Seems like they're cranking out that movie very, very quickly. I was a little surprised that did not line up. The end credit bit didn't line up. One thing here. So going back to this to the comment here, when spend $3 to see this. It is noteworthy that the movie has had a significant drop, 66% box office drop in its second weekend. Comparing that to, say, Superman, not the same in terms of prominence of the character, or a lot of other elements, obviously different. But that one had a 53% drop in its second week, and is continuing to perform well, I think, generally speaking, in theaters. For me, that movie still maybe not as good for me personally compared to Fantastic Four. I like Fantastic Four First Steps a little bit more. However, I kind of understand it in that you've got all the fanboys and whatever else coming out in the first week or whatever it is, seeing it as soon as they reasonably can. I don't know how rewatchable this movie is. Superman, while it has its faults, I could see it again. I could go to see it again. F1, the movie we did not see, Star G, that movie I did see twice in the theater, and it was great both times. It's an excellent movie. But yeah, I'm kind of not surprised that there was that drop. What did you think? Is this a rewatchable movie, or kind of you're good?
Well, speaking for my own self, I wouldn't mind rewatching it just straight. Like, am I going to go pay to see it in the theater again? Well,
Yeah.
Hey, but we did the reduced price Tuesday, so who knows? It's about to be Tuesday again. You never know. I might make it out to the theater again.
Yeah.
But leaving the price out of it, just on its own merit, like, would I have a bad time if I went back into the theater to see this movie again? No, I wouldn't. But specifically, when we get to Avengers Doomsday coming around again, it wouldn't hurt as a pre-ritual, pre-routine to have all this fresh in my head. And that, so let me cast to the future. I look very forward to seeing this specific group of the Fantastic Four, these specific actors, interplay with your Hemsworths and your Evanses and whoever else. I think the currently Marvel, previously Fox X-Men characters. I think it's a really crowded playing field for Avengers Doomsday. So it's a tall order, but I would definitely see it again to freshen up or to sharpen my eye for watching Doomsday.
Yep. I just had a flash in my head. John Krasinski, in his brief appearance in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, he is a pretty good Reed Richards.
He's a really good Reed Richards.
Jim Campbell writes something in the comments here.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay. End credit scene. Is Doom the father of Franklin? They mentioned that Fantastic Four had a hard time conceiving, then gave up. Very sus. Wow.
Man, Campbell painting with a darker brush tonight. Look out.
Opening up a can of Campbell's soup.
Can of Campbell's soup. Look out.
Wow.
I think that's I said this earlier, not on camera. Like, I wouldn't say Doom is a one-trick pony, but I'd say Doom consistently is looking to steal power. Obviously, Galactus was drawn to Franklin because Franklin was born with a certain ability to manipulate the power cosmic. And let me say, isn't it how cool? And not just cosmic power, but the power cosmic. Excellent phrasing that Jack Kirby left us from the 60s to now. So Doom obviously is trying to get his mitts on Franklin now, the same way that he had on the Surfer before, the same way that he had on Galactus before, the same way that he had on the Beyonder before. But that's like, now you've got, again, all the other elements that we spoke of. Now you've got the threat of, is the kid going to be safe? Is Doom going to menace young Franklin? And how would all that come to play?
Oh, this is complicated. Jim Campbell going even deeper into the rabbit hole here, into the looking glass. Everyone loves Sue. Doom, Old Man, Namor,
Namor. We're not sure when we're seeing Namor again, but he might have to wait in line to get his chance to try to interact with Sue another time.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mr. C, I think I'm good. Other things you had?
No, just it's been I guess it's just okay. Just there's a lot of great comics out there to read,
Yeah.
and we can hold those up in front of the camera another time. We're at the hour mark. I just thanks to Michaela, thanks to Mandarin, and Mandarin. I know Mandarin's cool to do the hot dog conversation. That'll be some future business on the Mr. C channel. Thank you, Michaela. Thank you, Jim Campbell. Thank you, the Mandarin and Mark Barnes. Thank you for coming around and commenting on our conversation here.
All right, we got to deal with it. Hulker thing.
Oh, Hulker thing. Well, I mean, Hulk, but by this much.
Star.
I go the opposite way.
You're gonna say the thing can take the Hulk?
Sure.
All right, good. Just to put a contrarian view out there.
I'm going Hulk. Yeah. I don't understand the thing's beard thing. I don't understand that.
It was again an interesting choice. Like in
Yeah.
my head, he doesn't grow any hair in any kind of a way. But
Right.
then why? So as a human, before the radiation, before the cosmic rays, he had hair on his head, but now he doesn't. But now he's going to grow a beard. That's a very interesting visual.
Wouldn't it be like really bad case of ingrown hair? Because
That'd be
he's rocks.
Painful stuff.
That's weird.
And he like grinded it off, right?
Yeah, that's weird too, man.
So now a thing that the Thing and Superman have in common, right? That was the old thing. How does Superman shave? He does his heat beams in the mirror and then melts off or burns off the hair growing out of his. Ooh, okay. Some stuff is better just in the without the realism. Oh boy.
All right. Well, I think that's going to close us out. Thanks all for watching. Whether you're on the Mr. C Dives In channel or on the FBC channel, Fanboy Cantina channel, thank you. Do us all the favor of the YouTubey things of hitting the like and the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Fun hanging out.
See y'all. Take care.